My personal opinion is, why not host a contest?
Yeah.
I'll start there. I think it's important if we're in Toastmasters to improve our speaking skills. If you joined a club and that's your purpose, the only way to truly improve beyond what we get as evaluators, as you know, through the subject matters that we talk about to our own clubmaster, you get used to talking to those people and you get used to hearing their feedback. I think contests allow you to be in.
Welcome to D50 After Dark, where we have conversations with the most influential Toastmasters in District 50. I'm your host, Mickey Bennett, and in today's episode, we will be having another conversation with our Quality Contest Chair, Bonnie Dubbin, and we will be talking all about contest season. It's going to be a great conversation. Welcome to D50 After Dark, and Bonnie, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Mickey. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, so now that we know a little bit about who you are and where you've been, let's talk about Toastmasters contests.
Well, I'm very excited being a new Toastmaster member to learn more and more every day on what Toastmasters contests are going to be like. And I think it's going to be an exciting time to come back face to face and really try to put aside some of the fear that people have had from COVID in actually being in front of people and speaking. So I'm hopeful that everyone will be excited as I am to come and participate and just have a good time, win or not.
Yeah. I am myself am very excited about going back to in-person contests. Now, as you mentioned in the previous episode, you have been in Toastmasters for a couple months now.
Correct.
So I know that there are some clubs who have already had their contests for the coming contest season. So have you had a chance to attend any of those?
I have not.
Okay.
Denise, so I probably took on this chairmanship maybe 2.5 weeks ago. And so, yeah, so most of my learning has been reading and writing. And Denise and I have had quite a few conversations. She has sent me out the district directors' names and things. And I am hopeful next week when things are really calm at work that I have time to reach out to them and find a little bit more about each of them and their clubs and how I can benefit them as the chairman.
Very cool. Yeah. So you are jumping right in there, getting your hands in there and figuring it all out. So I'd like to hear a little bit about like what you've learned so far about what the quality contest chair actually has to do, because obviously, for those of us who are really familiar with Toastmasters contests, clubs have contests, and it's going to be run by the club, whoever they pick to be their contest chair, and so forth. Area contests are going to be run by the area director and whoever they have be their contest chair, and so forth with to some extent with the division contest. So what are the responsibilities of the quality contest chair?
Well, from what I gather from conversations with Denise and just what I've read thus far, I think a lot of it is the organization of getting the contest together and ready to go for this face-to-face interaction. So being sure we have good locations, being sure those locations have what we need to be sure that speakers are successful when they're doing their speeches in the contest, being sure that we have all advertising of flyers or emails, or if we're doing Facebook, whatever and however we're going to advertise in any way we can is done professionally. That small things like making sure we use the Toastmaster logo properly, because there's lots of rules and regulations for logos. I know that well as we try to do things through recruiting here at Willis-Knighton and have to use that logo quite a bit. To be sure that our materials are well put together and easy to understand. So I sort of see my function from what I'm going to try to do is just to be the organizer behind the scenes to be sure that everything runs as smoothly as we can make it smooth as we transition back into full face-to-face contests.
Yeah. One thing that I'm hearing in what you're saying is, in my interpretation, that the word quality in your title is not a superfluous word they threw in to sound nice. It sounds like what you're doing is really focused on making sure the quality is there rather than running any of these contests yourself.
Correct. I think that chairman's job is to help those that are actually on site running each of their independent contests, whether it's actually at the club level, area level, just however, whichever level they're moving on, has all the tools they need to make it successful, has a point person they can shout out to if they have questions and those kind of things. So it's very much like what I do here at Willis-Knighton, which might be why Denise decided I'd be okay, even though I'm brand new to Toastmasters. I have to coordinate a lot with new hires here to be sure that they know where to go and what to do. My department is not in HR, but we work hand in hand with HR. So I think I'm going to use a lot of the skills that I do already here at work to help each of these places that put on contests make them as successful as they can, and a quality work from start to finish, which I think should also include how we help the people in the contest, the actual speakers, hone their speeches in to be as quality from their point of view and the audience and the judges as possible.
Yeah, and of course, you're not alone in all this. As always in Toastmasters, we have teams involved. And you have Denise, our program quality director, who we recently talked to, of course, support you in every way. And then you have people who are supporting you as well. Who are some people on your team?
I don't remember everyone's name. I know the chief judge and I, we've had several emails back and forth. Unfortunately, I had to miss out on a Zoom that she and Denise had the other day, but hopefully I can backtrack and catch up on that information. Denise sent me in some names of people who have done contests before. And so they're my resource there. To be honest, I will really kick off doing a lot of the footwork on this starting next week, as again, the next 3 weeks for what I do within the hospital system are very much low key. And so it gives me a lot of opportunity in the day to be able to work and touch out and talk to people from this point.
Very cool. Very cool. Now this contest season, we are having, for one thing, we're only having one contest season. In the past, we have usually had a fall contest season where we had a humorous speech and one other contest. And then in the spring, we would have international speech and one other contest. And when I say other contest, there's 3 that would rotate through. We would have table topics contest, or we would have an evaluation contest, or we would have tall tales contest.
Correct.
This year, we're having one contest season, and the 2 contests will be, of course, international speech contest, and then tall tales.
Tall tales, correct.
Yeah. So what is a tall tale?
Well, I think a tall tale is exactly what it says, as long as you're spelling the word tale correctly. So what we are looking for is someone who is good at spinning a yarn, basically, something that's highly exaggerated, most likely improbable of actually happening. But at that end, still has a good theme or plot to the talk itself. It would be somewhere between a 3 and 5 minute conversation with the audience, which is what I always like to promote. If you learn as a speaker just to converse with the people in front of you instead of thinking of it as a speech to somebody, it tends to help you relax a little bit when you're on the stage and make it more conversational.
Yeah, and yeah, you're exactly right. And in Toastmasters, the tall tale speech is 3 to 5 minutes. So it's one of the shorter speech formats that we have. So that's unusual. And it's a story with exaggerated elements, like Paul Bunyan kind of story. I did a tall tale speech once, and I was looking at the pyramid on the back of a $1 bill, and then I ended up on this like adventure being chased by the Illuminati, and there was a pyramid under Dallas, and then I woke up and maybe it was a dream, or was it?
I wish I'd heard it. It sounds like it was fantastic.
I went pretty tall with that tall tale. That was fun. That was fun. So I think Tall Tales is really one of the most fun contests that we have in Toastmasters, because it really encourages you to go all the way with the imagination.
I think it sounds fantastic.
Oh, okay. And there are requirements to enter different contests. And for the Tall Tales contest, you only have to be a member in good standing of a club in good standing. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. And in good standing is basically you've paid your dues.
That's what I read.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm going to guess that's a true statement.
Yeah. So this is a great opportunity, even for new members like yourself, to get involved in contest season, even if you haven't progressed that far in your pathways. As long as you're a member in good standing, you can join the Tall Tale contest and have a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I think it'd be a great way to practice before you have all the requirements to do the international contest route. So I think it's a great way, if you've never really been in a contest before or spoken in front of a bunch of people, a great way to kind of kick it off and give it a shot.
Yeah. Now, speaking of the international speech contest, tell us about that. What is an international speech?
Well, that one's a little bit more formal. I think you have to remember that you have to have completed 1 and 2 in any of the pathways that you've chosen to do. So that is a stipulation for the international. I think you can take that in many different ways, but I want to say that this one's a little bit longer, so probably matches more what most of the speeches are, so 5 to 7 minutes. And I think if you've gone through several of your pathways already and completed 1 and 2 in those, that you should be able to step up and be able to put together a speech that would be not only entertaining but informative to the audience itself.
Yeah, and I believe we call it the International Speech Contest because of all the contests we have in Toastmasters, it's the only one that goes all the way up to the World Championship of Public Speaking. Yeah, so this is the big one, right?
So you got to do many steps up from your club and all the way upward. Correct.
Yeah, if you win at the club level, you compete at the area.
Yeah.
If you win there, you compete at division. If you win in division, you get to compete in the district. And then if you win the district, you go on to the World Championship, where they have a semifinals and a finals. I've never been that far in the contest levels, but that's where it goes. And if you win all the way at the finals, you can call yourself a world champion of public speaking, which is pretty amazing.
That would be. They had a great article in the What's Up Wednesday a couple weeks back, I think it was, about the world champion most recently.
Yeah, and you said that to compete in the international speech contest, in addition to being a member in good standing of a club in good standing, you have to compete. Is it 1 or is it 2 levels in pathways?
2. You have to have completed levels 1 and 2.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I had thought it was only level 1, so I learned something today. Awesome. Thank you.
Or you can bypass that if you have been given the Distinguished Toastmaster Award. And to be honest, I don't know what that is, but it sounds impressive, and I think I want it.
Yeah, well, the Distinguished Toastmaster Award is the culmination of the educational program that Toastmasters provides. And in the current educational system, the Pathways system, you have to complete 2 full pathways, all 5 levels. You have to serve as in a district leadership role, like area director or something like that, for a year. And then there's several other like projects that you do in addition to that. And once you complete all the parts of it, then you achieve the level of distinguished Toastmaster, or you may see some of us put DTM after our name to represent that. Now, obviously, if you had completed a DTM under the current program, you would have already completed the level 2 requirement. But I guess they put that in there for people who have completed the Distinguished Toastmaster Award under the previous educational program, people like myself, and there was different requirements before we went to the new system about 6 years ago.
Gotcha. Now, see, now you've taught me something.
That's right.
Does that make us equal?
Yeah. So, someday you will be a DTM. I'm certain of it.
Well, I'll strive to get there.
Yeah.
Then we'll have to talk again on a podcast and say, I made it.
That's right. When you are a DTM, we will definitely have you back on the show to hear all about it.
We'll consider it a date.
Now, you mentioned at the beginning of this conversation that we're going back in person.
Mm-hmm.
So in the past, contests were always in person. Online clubs were only kind of a new thing. Then COVID happened. Everybody panicked, and we started meeting online. And so we did contest season online. And I'm sure they had to build the airplane while it was flying that first contest season during COVID. I'm sure that was pretty wild. I was not competing at that time. And since then, we have continued to have online contests, although I think last year we had a hybrid setup where clubs could do it in person or hybrid. And then in the area and division contest, you could compete in person or via Zoom. But now it's all in person.
Correct. And I like it better that way. I'm a speaker who likes an audience that I can visually see all of them, like all parts of them, so I can see what their body language and stuff is up to and try to entice them into the conversation with me. Our club here in Shreveport, the one that I belong to, is a hybrid. So we have some people in the boardroom with us and some still up on the screen. And I find it hard myself to talk to both. It's a lot of concentration here to interact with the audience and then looking up and remembering, oh, there's people up there on a screen. So I'm hopeful that people will like the fact that it's face-to-face, because truly it's easier than trying to go back and forth from a hydrant. And I think even just on the computer itself. I just think for speaking, the best way is to be right there face-to-face with the people that you're talking to in person. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I agree completely. You know, this whole experiment with Toastmasters and Zoom has been useful in certain ways because many of us are also having to use teleconferencing software like Zoom in the workplace now. And so being able to develop these skills in Toastmasters is a nice like sandbox for those of us who have to use it sometimes at work. That being said, this is just nothing can replace meeting people in person, seeing a speaker in person, and having that face-to-face interaction.
100% agree.
Yeah. That being said, a lot of people have gotten used to virtual and hybrid. And for example, in my club, we're meeting virtually right now. Almost all of our members live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, most of them kind of in the Plano area. However, we do have at least one member who lives in another state. If we were to have a contest and she were to compete and win, Joe Pye is the member I have in mind. If Joe Pye were to compete in our contest and win, she would not be able to go compete at the area contest. Is that right?
I think that is correct, because my understanding is you have to compete within the place that you live,
Okay.
within your own club, in your own district, and that kind of stuff. Yeah, we have several people that are in the Shreveport Club that actually live other places now as well.
Yeah. And there are even some clubs that were designed to be geographically dispersed, right? So there are perhaps some clubs for which the in-person situation is just probably not going to work at all.
Correct.
Yeah. And I say this not to complain. Again, I'm a big fan of in-person, but I'm sure there are going to be some whatabouts as we have our first all in-person contest season.
I'm sure there's always a glitch somewhere, but we work through the glitches, and next year it'll be even better.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Now we're having a bit of a extended contest season because I believe there are clubs that are already starting to have their club contests. Is that right?
I don't know that for a fact.
Okay.
Denise has not mentioned that someone's had one yet. I know there's lots of planning for upcoming contests, and they've been meeting via Zoom with leaders to be sure we have locations on. So my understanding was we're on the location part, trying to find places that will be worthy of hosting us as Toastmasters and give us the ability to have our contests.
Okay. Well, I may be mistaken about clubs already beginning to have contests. So tell me why. We're going to go long on this conversation, but I just really want our audience to hear all about contests. Why should a club host a club contest?
My personal opinion is, why not host a contest?
Yeah.
I'll start there. I think it's important, if we're in Toastmasters, to improve our speaking skills. If you joined a club and that's your purpose, the only way to truly improve beyond what we get as evaluators, as you know, through the subject matters that we talk about to our own club master, you get used to talking to those people and you get used to hearing their feedback. I think contests allow you to be in front of a new audience, which hones your skill even more, but more importantly, gives you different people to give you, how could you have done that better, to do that evaluation. And whether you win or not, I think in a contest, it's fun to win, but I think if you're going into it to try to get new people to tell you how you can actually be better and wherever it is you're trying to get in your speaking skills, I think that would be the reason why.
Yeah, I'll tell you, some of my biggest leap forwards in my communication and leadership skills in Toastmasters has been participating in contests. You know, the first contest I competed in was an evaluation contest. And so I just really focused on, how do you give a really good evaluation? Like, what makes an evaluation worthy of winning a contest? And so I just really practiced that skill, which impacted other areas of my communication and leadership skills. And then I competed in international speech contest. And it was the first time that I'd given the same speech more than once, right? And so I'd given a speech. It was good enough to win the club contest. And then I was like, okay, I've got to make it better to win at the area. And so I kept streamlining. And a lot of times we neglect to do that, of continuing to hone a particular speech to be better and better and better, unless we're forced to in progressing through the contest season. Yeah,
I would agree with that. That's a great insight.
And going back to my question about why should a club host a club contest, after doing all that, I was a club contest chair. And so I learned how you organize the contest. And I was so surprised that we had like a binder of things to do. There was the script for the contest that the contest master reads from. There was all these people I had to meet with beforehand, the chief judge and the contest master and the contestants themselves. You brief the contestants and all of that. I learned so much about leadership and working in a team from taking on being a contest chair for my club.
Mm-hmm. I think that's fantastic. I look forward to getting some of that information as I'm going through all of doing this chairmanship here. There is a lot of paperwork.
There is. So I would encourage clubs to have a contest. Try it out. There's people like who can help you organize it and understand how it works. Sometimes some clubs, unfortunately, it's maybe not going to be the perfect option to have a club contest. So I think, for example, my club, our attendance is low right now, so we're going to do a showcase instead. And I only just recently heard this term. Do you know what a showcase is?
Yes, it is. And I look at it as an informal contest. You don't have all the specific rules and regulations and evaluations that you would on an actual contest we were having. But it's a little bit more free flowing, I guess, a little bit more similar to what your meetings might be, which might take some of the fear of speaking. Taking the word contest out sometimes makes everybody a little bit more at ease.
Yeah. So it's always been the case that if a club doesn't have a club contest, they can still assign one or two of their members to represent their club at the area contest. So the idea of a showcase is for those people to try out their speech in front of the club and showcase their contest speech before going on to the area contest. So I think that's what we're going to do in my club this year. I think that's a good option for those who for whatever reason aren't going to be able to do a club contest. However, if you can do a club contest, do it. Get the judges, have the chief judge, the contest master, the different format. It's really worthwhile.
True. Again, I think you're right. It's going to depend on how large your club is.
Yep. Okay. Well, now that we've thoroughly talked about club contests and the contest season, I'm so excited about this year's contest season. Tell me, do you have a call to action for our listeners to wrap up this conversation?
I'm going to kind of tag on what you said last time. I think clubs need to promote doing one or the other. Just get out there and try something. If you're big enough to do a contest, do that. And if not, just do it in the more informal formats. But get involved somehow in helping us all promote getting back in action to face-to-face.
Very good. So you heard it from Bonnie. If you are a club officer, talk to your officers about getting a club contest started. If you are just a member in your club, call up your president, call up your vice president of education and tell them, hey, I want to compete in contests. Are we having one this year? Let's go for it.
There you go.
All right. Well, Bonnie, thank you very much for this conversation about contests. And in our next conversation, in our next episode, we're going to talk about how to make a great contest speech, speechcraft. What do you do to deliver a speech that really impacts your audience and wins you that first place trophy or ribbon? So tune in next week as we talk to Bonnie again and our quality contest chair. See you then.